Welcome to A Sound Constitution with Mahir, Sharon, Katie, and Brandy on 101.7 CHLY Radio.
We are fourth-year nursing students from Vancouver Island University in Nanaimo.
We're here working to demystify health issues in and around your community.
Bringing you evidence-based information about your healthcare options. This information is for educational purposes and does not replace the advice of your primary healthcare provider.
Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in for another episode of Listen to Your Body. I'm Sharon.
And I'm Katie.
And we're your hosts this week. Last week, Brandy and Mahir talked about the integumentary and musculoskeletal systems. If you want to listen to the episode, you can find us on Facebook and YouTube if you search for A Sound Constitution.
This week's topic is about the reproductive and endocrine systems. These systems regulate our hormones, growth, and metabolism. Without our reproductive system, we wouldn't be able to have sex and reproduce.
The reproductive systems between males and females are quite different, as one might guess. We will get a little bit more in depth after we ask our community for their opinions. The endocrine systems are actually very similar in design between males and females. So the hormones released by the endocrine system and their concentrations, however, in the body do differ between the genders.
Apart from a general overview of anatomy of the systems, we'll also be talking about current issues in the world. We're going to touch on the Me Too movement, sexually transmitted diseases such as STIs and HIV, sex trafficking, and about sexual health. Please note, this episode of A Sound Constitution features many different sensitive subjects, and it could be hard to listen to or bring back painful experiences for certain people. Please feel free to stop listening at any time and make sure to talk to someone you trust or your healthcare provider if you have any concerns.
Also, as you may have noticed, today we're talking about a very mature subject. If you don't want your kids to listen in, now's the time to turn it off.
Let's begin the show by asking the public what they know about the reproductive and endocrine systems. We sent Brandy out to the community to find out what you know.
Hey you!
Who, me?
Yeah, you! We want to hear what you have to say, because
your opinion matters!
What organs make up the reproductive and endocrine systems?
I don't know.
The heart. Yeah, I think that is the heart.
In males, I think the testosterone, and the female, I don't know. I know, but I don't know an exact name for that.
The ovaries, the testes, liver, pancreas, brain, hypothalamus, pituitary, anterior and posterior pituitary.
What are some things that are harmful to the reproductive or endocrine systems?
Maybe the lifestyle we are having, like the smoking, more of the, the drinking, the drug addictiveness, I think there, and plus the sexual thing, which is like not so much, maybe the STD thing or like that, maybe, I'm not really sure, but yeah.
The drug, yeah.
Harmful excess of drugs, yeah.
I'm not sure.
What are some diseases related to the reproductive and endocrine systems?
So again, there's the sexually transmitted, maybe the HIV, and what else? And yes, like we nowadays, the habits and the drinking conditions and then the eating habits are like, so you can develop the cancers like the ovary cancer and everything, which is very much common nowadays. So yeah.
Diseases. Maybe it's a heart attack. Yeah.
I think cancer, yeah, and the female, the breast cancer is the maximum female all across the globe. They're facing that every day, so that's the biggest problem. I think the challenging one we're facing now.
Like cancers.
What are some ways to take care of the reproductive and endocrine systems?
To develop knowledge, proper knowledge, to take care, to not exactly, because even myself, I'm not so much into healthy lifestyle, but try to build a healthy lifestyle, try to be more, into in a positive manner, in a positive environment, so that you can just take care of yourself and the people around you as well.
Have a healthy diet and eat some healthy food.
How about the not about the reproductive, but about, as I mentioned, the breast cancer. Or I can say, like, if they don't wear in the like tropical countries, they should not wear the black bras. Like, there's because that absorb heat, and do not drink water from the plastic bottles. Those are the major concerns, the measures you can take to avoid those breast cancer. That's what I know.
Like reproductive, like doctor visits are necessary, like pap tests and stuff like that. Not sure about the endocrine.
Wow, thank you, Brandy. Those were some good answers there.
So first, we're going to talk about what the community knows about the organs for the reproductive and endocrine systems. Someone mentioned the heart, which is not a part of the endocrine or reproductive system. A lot of people said they didn't know. But someone did list the pancreas, liver, and various endocrine glands, which are correct as part of the endocrine system. And then the penis, testes, and ovaries were also mentioned as correct parts of the reproductive system.
The penis and the urethra, which is a duct that moves urine from the bladder to the outside world, belong to both the urinary and reproductive systems in male. In the testes, which is where the sperm is made, are carried in an external pouch known as the scrotum. That way, the scrotum remains slightly colder than the rest of the body, and lower temperature facilitates sperm production.
Actually, a fun fact, scientists think that a sedentary lifestyle leads to lower fertility as you're sitting on, like, with your body heat very close to your scrotum, and that is not very good at facilitating sperm production.
Very interesting, actually. I did not know that. Mm-hmm. So the external structures of the female reproductive systems, according to Cleveland Clinic, include the clitoris, labia minora and majora, and Bartholin's glands. And those are only the external reproductive system parts. The major internal organs of the female reproductive system include the vagina and the uterus, which acts like a receptacle for semen, and the ovaries, which produce the female's ova.
Or eggs.
Yeah.
For the endocrine system, it's made up of many glands in your body, such as the pituitary, adrenal, thyroid, and many more. These glands send hormones into your bloodstream. Hormones are chemicals that tell cells and organs what to do. Your body makes hundreds of hormones. They help you control things like your appetite and your blood pressure. They play a role in how your body reacts to stress. An example is the way insulin tells your cells how to use sugar for energy. Sex hormones control male and female traits, puberty, childbirth, and menopause. And that's why we're doing these two systems together, because of the interplay between the endocrine system and the reproductive system when it comes to sex hormones.
Now let's move on to how you take care of your system and what's harmful. Katie will speak to what our community had to say.
Mm-hmm. So for harmful things, our community mentioned lifestyle choices such as smoking, drinking, and drugs, not having safe sex, so developing STIs, and apart from that, they weren't really sure what else was harmful to your reproductive and endocrine system. As for what can protect your systems, the community listed knowledge as a very good thing, and we totally agree. More knowledge, it'll help you lead a healthier lifestyle. Diet, environment, visiting the doctor and getting checked up regularly are also very good things. We noticed one of the community members mentioned wearing black bras and drinking from plastic water bottles as concerns for breast cancer. We looked a little into this. According to cancercare.org, drinking warm water or freezing plastic water bottles is not harmful and does not lead to a higher risk of breast cancer. Also, we found that wearing bras does not increase your risk of breast cancer either. We couldn't find a lot of credible information regarding black bras specifically, but a number of websites did dispel this as a myth.
So we'll talk about how you do take care of your system and what's harmful to it in altogether, all right? So the male and female reproductive systems are very, very different, as we mentioned before. However, both males and females can take the following steps to keep their endocrine and their reproductive systems healthy. So exercising and eating healthy, a person has to make sure that they're getting all the required nutrients, vitamins, and minerals to keep their body healthy. Consuming good foods will avoid bad bacteria from flourishing. Too much sugar and too many carbohydrates are not healthy. Stay away from fast foods as they may contain preservatives and additives, which can affect your fertility. And we'll talk about fertility a little bit later. And specifically for the endocrine system, include iodine in your diet. When you use salt, choose iodized salt over any other kind of salt as well. Aside from the diet, exercise is also important. When a person exercises regularly, they're more likely to keep a healthy weight, and keeping your proper weight is essential for keeping your whole body healthy. People who are obese or overweight experience hormone imbalances, which can impair their fertility, their thinking, their metabolism, and just anything that's going on in their body is going to be affected by their weight.
Another thing you can do to protect your system is avoid unhealthy habits. Smoking is one of the most unhealthy habits. People who want to keep their reproductive system healthy should quit this habit altogether. Smoking affects the reproductive systems of both genders. Smoking also clogs arteries and causes vasospasm. These conditions can eventually lead to erectile dysfunction. For females, if you're taking birth control hormones or medication, smoking can greatly increase your chance of getting a blood clot, so you need to be very aware and talk to your doctor about that. Aside from smoking, drinking alcohol is also harmful to your reproductive and endocrine systems. Alcohol has direct and indirect effects on a person's hypothalamus, the pituitary gland, the testes in males, and the ovaries in females.
Protecting yourself by practicing safe sex is beneficial in short term and long term. So it's always best to stay protected. Use a condom, go on birth control, talk to your doctor to see what options are available for you. And stay safe. That's the most important part of it.
Being medically healthy, so discovering and identifying any issue early on is key. The sooner a problem is found, the sooner it can be dealt with. Make sure your doctors know about any hormones you're taking, including birth control medication, thyroid hormone, insulin, or hormone therapy for menopause.
Being in contact with your doctor and going in for checkups is also important to protect your body, as well as reproductive and endocrine systems. So if you have an active sex life with multiple partners, or you have any other concerns about contracting an STI, make sure to get checked out by a healthcare professional. Here in Nanaimo, we have the Options for Sexual Health Clinic, which is located near the police station downtown. It's free, confidential, and runs most of the days of the week. The CDC also recommends getting tested for STIs regularly, about once a year for women and about 3 to 6 months for men who have sex with other men. This is because this population is a little bit more at risk for getting infections. Women should also get a pap test every 3 years, starting from the ages between 25 to 30, and then every 5 years after that.
Occupational hazards can be especially harmful to men and can cause infertility. Avoid being exposed to excess heat, chemicals, and radiation. And wash your hands before you're relieving yourself to prevent contamination getting transferred to your private parts. In our discussion with the community, they identified some diseases that can affect your reproductive and endocrine system. STDs, HIV, and cancers were all talked about. Someone mentioned a heart attack, which is related to the cardiovascular system, not necessarily this system. Breast cancer was mentioned, and then someone also mentioned eating habits affecting your system, which is true in a way, as diabetes is a disease of the endocrine system, and that can be affected by eating habits. Our interviewees identified cancer as one of the diseases affecting reproductive health. Many parts of the male and female reproductive systems can be affected by cancer. In females, cancer can attack the uterus, ovaries, breast, and cervix, among other organs, according to the American Cancer Society. Men can get prostate, pineal, and testicular cancers. Females can also suffer from vaginal yeast infections, pelvic inflammatory disease, and endometriosis. Males can suffer from erectile dysfunction and prostatitis. Males and females can both contract HIV and STIs. We'll talk more in depth about this later on in the show.
In the end, one of the worst things that can happen to the reproductive system is infertility. Infertility is defined as a couple's inability to conceive after 1 year of unprotected intercourse where they're trying to get baby, basically. It can be caused by a condition in one partner or a combination of circumstances, according to Mayo Clinic. Reproductive conditions are treated by a variety of specialists. In women, many issues are treated by obstetricians or gynecologists, and for males, urologists handle many of the disorders of the reproductive system. There are also infertility experts that treat couples who are unable to conceive, and endocrinologists who treat hormonal disorders.
For the endocrine system, the three that we're going to mainly focus on today are hypothyroidism. This condition can change your energy level. It can make you lose weight and it can give you a fast heart rate. And it's caused by having too much thyroid hormone in your body. Hypothyroidism is the opposite of hyperthyroidism. It can make you feel tired, constipated, and it's caused by not having enough thyroid hormone in your body. Diabetes is the last big one that we're going to touch on this episode. This happens when your body can't produce enough of the hormone insulin or can't use it properly. Your body then can't regulate the amount of sugar in your blood. High blood sugar can cause damage to your eyes, nerves, kidneys, blood vessels, and many, many other things. But first, let's take a music break before talking about any more stuff. Here's the Jets Overhead with Time and Place off their album Boredom and Joy.
There's a time and a place for you get what you gave, and you feel like a slave because you want what you hate. There's a time and a place for a sentimental day when you put pen to the page for your crimes to explain. Time, who could have known? Who could have known? Who could have known? There's a time and a place for being lost in a haze, being caught up in a craze, for the fires that will blaze. There's a time and a place when you won't know your own face. Pull the skin but it stays. It's the end of the game. Time, who could have known? Who could have known? Who could have known? Running out of time. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go? Running out of time. Where did it go? Where did it go? Where did it go?
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to A Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY. Today we're talking about the reproductive and endocrine systems. That was Jets Overhead with Time and Place off their album Boredom of Joy.
Now, let's talk a little bit about STDs. According to the CDC, sexually transmitted diseases, shortened to STDs, can be transmitted via unprotected sexual intercourse. STDs are caused by bacteria, viruses, or parasites. Most STDs are spread through unprotected vaginal, anal, or oral sex, and sometimes also through the use of sex toys. Intimate genital contact with someone already infected can also spread STDs, such as herpes and genital warts.
So surprisingly, most people actually experience no symptoms when they have an STD. If you do have any symptoms, some of them may include sores or soreness, unusual lumps in like anywhere, basically like on your mouth, around your genital area. Itching is also another symptom, pain when you're urinating or defecating, and unusual discharges from the genitals. Any kind of worry, I'd always just recommend to go to your doctor about it. So be mindful that symptoms may not appear for several weeks after infection as well, and you should access medical health care as soon as you notice a symptom of an STD. If left untreated, some STDs can have serious consequences like infertility. As many people have no STD symptoms, it's advised that all sexually active people have regular checkups. Have checkup before and after unprotected sex or sexual activities with a new partner as well.
Be sure to advocate for yourself. If you feel uncomfortable or you want your partner to get checked out before you engage in sexual relations, like make sure you do that. Like your safety is your concern, and you shouldn't feel uncomfortable asking for something like that.
So taking treatment can cure most STDs, but a few cannot be cured but can be managed with treatment. If you have an STD, get treatment as early as you can to avoid health risks to yourself and others. Informing any recent sexual partners of an STD diagnosis protects them and, prompts them to go get tested as well, because it's infectious, and if you don't tell your previous sex partners, they might not know, and they've already infected other people as well.
So what is HIV? HIV, or human immunodeficiency virus, is a virus that attacks cells specific to the immune system, which is our body's natural defense against illness. This is why this disease is so devastating.
So if HIV is left untreated, it can take up to 10 to 15 years for the immune system to be so severely damaged that it can no longer defend itself at all, like even against cold. The earlier they can be diagnosed, the sooner they can get treatment, which means that they will enjoy a better life and a better health in long term. Regular testing for HIV is important to know your status as well. HIV is So some places that it can be found in is semen, blood, vaginal and anal fluids, as well as breast milk. So if you come into contact with these fluids from another person, it's always good to get it checked out.
Mythbusters!
Some things you can't get HIV from include saliva, sweat, and urine, being bitten by an insect who's bitten someone who has HIV, touching someone with HIV, breathing the air they've breathed, and water that may have been contaminated. All these things are not going to give you HIV and is safe to do.
Mythbusters!
To prevent HIV, using external condoms or internal, like female condoms, during sex is the best way to prevent HIV and any other STD. If you inject drugs, always use a clean needle and syringe and never share equipment. If you're pregnant and living with HIV, the virus in your blood could pass to your baby's body during birth or afterwards through breastfeeding. Taking HIV treatment and becoming undetectable, which means having so little amount of the HIV virus in your blood that it can't be transmitted, eliminates this risk. And this can be done by consulting with your doctor and taking your medications. So what about AIDS? What's AIDS? AIDS, or acquired immune deficiency syndrome, is a set of symptoms, or syndrome as opposed to a virus, caused by HIV. A person is said to have AIDS when their immune system is too weak to fight off infection, and they can develop certain defining symptoms and illnesses. This is the last stage of HIV, when the infection is very advanced, and if it's left untreated, it will lead to death. A lot fewer people will develop AIDS nowadays because the treatment for HIV means that more people are staying well. Although there's no cure for HIV, with the right treatment and support, people living with HIV can enjoy long and healthy lives. To do this, it's especially important to commit to taking treatment correctly. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to A Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY. Today we're talking about the reproductive and endocrine system.
Now I want to introduce our next bit. While we're discussing the reproductive system and sex, we wanted to discuss when sex is used to harm instead of a mutually consensual experience for both people. Sexual assault, harassment, and abuse are all real problems and have been very big discussions in the media recently. The hashtag #MeToo movement is a movement against sexual harassment and sexual assault. The Me Too movement spread virally in October 2017 as a hashtag used on social media in an attempt to demonstrate the widespread prevalence of sexual assault and harassment, especially in the workplace. It followed soon after the sexual misconduct allegations against Harvey Weinstein, and that's really what brought it all up to the surface. The Me Too movement brought to light the staggering amounts of women who have been experiencing sexual misconduct, and males as well. Mm-hmm. Per CBS, within the first 24 hours, more than 4.7 million people used the hashtag on Facebook, and the hashtag has also been tweeted more than 500,000 times on Twitter.
We've also found a TED Talk that we found informative and powerful. Performing at TED India, Sunitha Krishnan has dedicated her life to rescuing women and children from sex slavery, a multi-million-dollar global market. In this courageous talk, she tells 3 powerful stories, as well as her own, and calls for a more humane approach to helping these young victims rebuild their lives. This TED Talk sheds light on the issue of sex trafficking, a problem we're still facing here in North America. I do want to add that Sunitha speaks about topics on sexual assault, rape, and the many experiences of sex trafficking victims suffered from. Please note this is a sensitive topic, and if you've had trauma in your life, this may trigger past negative experiences, so feel free to tune out for this part.
TED Talks are recorded live at the TED Conference. This episode features anti-trafficking crusader Sunitha Krishnan. This talk contains powerful visuals. Find it on video at TED.com. Here's Sunitha Krishnan.
I'm talking to you about the worst form of human rights violation, the 3rd largest organized crime, a $10 billion industry. I'm talking to you about a modern-day slavery. I'd like to tell you the story of these 3 children, Pranita, Shaheen, and Anjali. Pranita's mother was a woman in prostitution, a prostituted person. She got infected with HIV, and towards the end of her life, when she was in the final stages of AIDS, she could not prostitute, so she sold 4-year-old Pranita to a broker. By the time we got the information, we reached there, Pranita was already raped by 3 men. Shaheen's background I don't even know. We found her in a railway track, raped by many, many men, I don't know how many, but the indications of that on her body was that her intestine was outside her body. And when we took her to the hospital, she needed 32 stitches to put back her intestine into her body. We still don't know who her parents are, who she is. All that we know that hundreds of men had used her brutally. Anjali's father, a drunkard, sold his child for pornography. You're seeing here images of 3 years, 4-year-olds, and 5-year-old children who have been trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation. In this country and across the globe, hundreds and thousands of children, as young as 3, as young as 4, are sold into sexual slavery. But that's not the only purpose that human beings are sold for. They're sold in the name of adoption, they're sold in the name of organ trade, they're sold in the name of forced labor, camel jockeying, anything, everything. I work on the issue of commercial sexual exploitation, and I tell you stories from there. My own journey to work with these children started as a teenager. I was 15 when I was gang raped by 8 men. I don't remember the rape part of it so much as the anger part of it. Yes, there were 8 men who defiled me, raped me, but that didn't go into my conscience. I never felt like a victim then or now. But what lingered from then to now, I am 40 today, is this huge, outrageous anger. 2 years I was ostracized, I was stigmatized, I was isolated because I was a victim. And that's what we do to all traffic survivors. We as a civil society, we have PhDs in victimizing a victim. Right from the age of 15, when I started looking around me, I started seeing hundreds and thousands of women and children who are left in sexual slavery-like practices, but have absolutely no respite because we don't allow them to come in. Where does their journey begin? Most of them come from very optionless families. Not just poor. You have even the middle class sometimes getting trafficked. I had this IAS officer's daughter who's 14 years old, studying in 9th standard, who was web chatting with one individual and ran away from home because she wanted to become a heroine, who was trafficked. I have hundreds and thousands of stories of very, very well-to-do family and children from well-to-do families who are getting trafficked. These people are deceived, forced. 99.9% of them resist being inducted into prostitution. Some pay the price for it. They're killed. We don't even hear about them. They are voiceless, anamikas, nameless people. But the rest who succumb into it go through everyday torture. Because the men who come to them are not men who want to make you your girlfriends or who want to have a family with you. These are men who buy you for an hour, for a day, use you, throw you. Each of the girls that I have rescued more than 3,200 girls. Each of them tell me one story in common. One story about one man at least putting chili powder in her vagina. One man taking a cigarette and burning her. One man whipping her. We are living among those men. There are brothers, fathers, uncles, cousins, all around us. And we are silent about them. We think it is easy money. We think it is shortcut. We think the person likes to do what she's doing. But the extra bonuses that she gets is the various infections, sexually transmitted infections, HIV, AIDS, syphilis, gonorrhea, you name it, substance abuse, drugs, everything under the sun. And one day, she gives up on you and me because we have no options for her. And therefore, she starts normalizing this exploitation. She believes, yes, this is it. This is what my destiny is about. And this is normal to get raped by 100 men a day. And it's abnormal to live in a shelter. It's abnormal to get rehabilitated. It's in that context that I work. It's in that context that I rescue children. I've rescued children as young as 3 years, and I've rescued women as old as 40 years.
If you're just tuning in, you're listening to A Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY. Today, we're talking about the reproductive and endocrine systems.
Please note this is a sensitive topic, and if you've had trauma in your life, this may trigger past negative experiences, so feel free to tune out for this part.
When I rescued them, one of the biggest challenges I had was, where do I begin? Because I had lots of them who were already HIV infected. 1/3 of the people I rescue are HIV positive. And therefore, my challenge was to understand how can I get out the power from this pain. And for me, I was my greatest experience. Understanding my own self understanding my own pain, my own isolation was my greatest teacher. Because what we did with these girls is to understand their potential. You see a girl here who's trained as a welder. She works for a very big company, a workshop in Hyderabad, making furnitures. She earns around 12,000 rupees. She's an illiterate girl, trained, skilled as a welder. Why welding and why not computers? We felt one of the things that these girls had is immense amount of courage. They did not have any pardas inside their body, hijabs inside themselves. They've crossed the barrier of it. And therefore, they could fight in a male-dominated world very easily and not feel very shy about it. We have trained girls as carpenters, as masons, as security guards, as cab drivers, and each one of them are excelling in their chosen field, gaining confidence, restoring dignity, and building hopes in their own lives. These girls are also working in big construction companies like Ramki Construction as masons, full-time masons. What has been my challenge? My challenge has not been the traffickers who beat me up. I've been beaten up more than 14 times in my life. I can't hear from my right ear. I've lost a staff of mine who was murdered while on a rescue. My biggest challenge is a civil society. It's you and me. My biggest challenge is your blocks to accept these victims as our own. A very supportive friend of mine, a well-wisher of mine, used to give me every month 2,000 rupees for vegetables. When her mother fell sick, she said, Sunita, you have so much of contacts. Can you get somebody in my house to work so that she can look after my mother? And there's a long pause, and then she says, not one of our girls. It's very fashionable to talk about human trafficking in this fantastic AC hall. It's very nice for discussion, discourse, making films and everything. But it is not nice to bring them to our homes. It's not nice to give them employment in our factories, our companies. It's not nice for our children to study with their children. There it ends. That's my biggest challenge. If I'm here today, I'm here not only as Sunita Krishnan, I'm here as a voice of the victims and survivors of human trafficking. They need your compassion. They need your empathy. They need much more than anything else, your acceptance. Many times when I talk to people, I keep telling them one thing. Don't tell me 100 ways how you cannot respond to this problem. Can you apply your mind for that one way that you can respond to that problem? And that's what I'm here for. Asking for your support, demanding for your support, requesting for your support. Can you break your culture of silence? Can you speak to at least 2 persons about this story? Tell them the story. Convince them to tell the story to another 2 persons. I'm not asking you all to become Mahatma Gandhis or Martin Luther Kings or Medha Patkars or something like that. I'm asking you, in your limited world, can you open your minds? Can you open your hearts? Can you just encompass these people too? Because they also are part of us. They're also part of this world. I'm asking you for these children whose faces you see, they're no more. They died of AIDS last year. I'm asking you to help them accept as human beings, not as philanthropy, not as charity, but as human beings who deserve all our support. I'm asking you this because no child, no human being deserves what these children have gone through. Thank you.
That was Sunita Krishnan with a TED Talk about sex trafficking. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to A Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY. Today we're talking about the reproductive and endocrine system. The reason we wanted to include this TED Talk in this episode today is because it's an issue that not a lot of people are aware of. We encourage you to look more into this, and there are ways to help, even across the world.
To hear from people working closer to home here around our community of Nanaimo to prevent sexual assault, we talked to VIU's nursing students' party program to discuss what they've been trying to address on assault on campus.
I'm here in the recording studio at VIU. With me are Amy and Jeanette, who are some fellow fourth-year nursing students involved with an amazing health promotion program called the Party Program. Why don't you tell us what the Party Program is all about?
Yeah, so PARTY stands for Preventing Alcohol and Risk-Related Trauma in Youth. Our main goal is to reduce the number of traumatic events in youth through education. The PARTY program first began in Toronto and was created by a nurse. The nurse's daughter approached her after she had recognized a lot of youth her age were drinking and driving. The program first started in 1986 in an attempt to reduce the numbers of car crashes that were occurring.
That's really interesting that this program started across the country and has made it all the way out here. So what does your involvement with the program look like?
Yeah, so what we do is we take grade 10 students for a day in the hospital, and they get to see what the pathway of a trauma patient would be, starting all the way from the paramedics outside. They look at an ambulance, a wrecked vehicle. Then they go to the trauma station, actually in the ER. It's pretty exciting. And that's what we get to talk about to the students. And then they also go to the morgue. They get to talk to someone about rehab, for working without limbs or with a visual impairment, and then at the end they talk to a survivor of a motor vehicle accident.
Wow, that sounds like a really heavy experience for grade 10 students.
It is, and a really important goal we all like to reiterate to all of the students is that the purpose of what we do is not to scare them into never drinking or to have a fear of the healthcare system. We just want to provide them with realistic facts so they're able to make informed decisions about their own well-being.
Okay, so you said that's how you started with the program. What's changed since then?
After we delivered the PARTY program a few times, we recognized an area that wasn't being spoken of a lot, which has become much more prevalent in our communities, and it's the use of date rape drugs.
Now, are we talking about the use of date rape drugs with the grade 10 students, or?
No, yeah, we're talking about the use of date rape drugs with grade 10 students. When talking with forensic nurse educators and other healthcare team members, it became apparent that younger and younger members of our society are coming into the ER with this as an issue, and grade 10 students need to hear about the risks and how they can protect themselves and what to look out for.
Wow, that's really amazing. Okay, so what is the PARTY program doing to address this issue?
Yeah, so like Jeanette said, we spoke with a number of people, including the trauma coordinator at NRGH and the forensic nurse examiner. And we wanted to gauge how prevalent the issue actually is, and they both expressed the growing need for education around date rape drugs and sexual assault. And all three of us agreed we were all very interested in learning about other programs that universities were using, if any existed, and we really wanted to educate people around how to keep themselves and their peers safe.
So with all this research, what did you come up with?
So we looked at our population here on Vancouver Island University. They already have some resources and some campaigns going on, such as the No More campaign and the Moose Hide campaign, whose aims are to provide students who have experienced sexual assault, both on and off campus, with resources that can assist in the healing process. Vancouver Island University has also recently been working on a policy around sexual assault on and off campus, and they will release the number of sexual assault incidences that have occurred on campus later this year.
So what does this mean for people on campus?
The policy has many benefits for people. It'll be able to let us know how necessary the education is, but it may also cause people to be more apprehensive about disclosing or reporting in fear of being recognized. However, students should know that the reports can be completely anonymous, unless, of course, they choose to press charges.
I see, yeah. So what is your role in all of this then?
So as students, we realized bringing up the conversation about sexual assault can be very re-traumatizing, and people don't like to talk about it. So our goal was to set up a booth on campus to start the conversation around sexual assault. We connected with counselors on campus to learn about appropriate terminology to use and resources to connect individuals with if they choose to disclose to us.
And were you able to set up a booth and get the conversation going?
We did end up having a booth 3 times on campus now, and we all considered it to be quite successful and engaging as we provide students with realistic facts about sexual assault and created an interactive game where we encourage students to pick up a statement about sexual assault and for them to decide if it was a fact or a myth.
Oh, that sounds really engaging. So, aside from getting people talking about sexual assault, were there any other benefits of this booth?
Yeah, we really wanted to further our own knowledge as well as implement another program on VIU campus that provides education about sexual assault and will create a cultural shift where sexual assault is no longer a commonly seen issue.
It sounds like you guys are really taking a step in the right direction for combating the issue of sexual assault in our community. So what comes next for you in the party program?
Well, right now, we are in the process of researching sexual assault prevention programs that other university campuses have been utilizing. And we are going to bring that forward to a committee on campus that is total aim is to address sexual assault on the campus here. So we're going to present our findings to them, and that will help them create more initiatives.
Awesome. That sounds really exciting. Do you have any other nuggets or tidbits or words of advice you'd like to share with the community before we go?
This is an issue that is not often talked about, but I think it's becoming more and more talked about with things that are going on in media. And this is a great time for people to start conversations about it with their friends and families and make it something that is more culturally acceptable for us to talk about and to look at ways that we can combat it.
Awesome. I agree with you there. Well, thanks so much, Jeanette and Amy and the party program for joining us today.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys. They're doing some great work on campus. They're a really good resource if you have any questions as well. They're available on the campus. And if you want to reach them, you can also email us at
soundconstitution@chly@gmail.com.
Thank you, Katie.
If you've experienced sexual assault and don't know who to talk, the crisis line is a good resource. Their number is 1-888-494-3888. The police non-emergency number here in Nanaimo is 250-754-2345 as well. Remember what the party program said. Reports can be completely anonymous. Although it would be nice to live in a place where it's not necessary, we're going to outline some tips you can enact to avoid being assaulted, especially while walking home at night.
If you're walking alone at night, keep to well-lit areas. Walk confidently. If you suspect that you're being followed, keep to a very well-lit area as well. Screaming fire or call 911 is also a good way to get people's attention if you feel threatened. Mm-hmm. Keep an eye on your drink if you're out partying in a bar or at somebody's place. And remember, a lot of alcohol can leave you just as vulnerable as if you've been on drugs. If you're going to an isolated part of a building, take a friend. Remember to trust your gut. If you feel uncomfortable, get yourself out of the situation.
If you're just tuning in, we're Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY radio. Today, we're talking about the reproductive and endocrine system.
This is the last episode that we'll be making as the current group of a Sound Constitution that consists of myself, Sharon, Katie, Mahir, and Brandy.
To celebrate our past seasons and reminisce about the work that we've done, we've interviewed ourselves and done a couple of questions talking about what we learned and what was important to us about a Sound Constitution.
First up, we have Sandy, our faculty member, sharing her thoughts.
Well, thank you for the invitation to speak with you regarding a Sound Constitution. I've been working with the Sound Constitution, the nursing students, since about 2010. It was actually a very student-driven initiative to help promote health from using the medium of the radio. The great thing about A Sound Constitution has been that we've been really supported by the staff at CHLY. We're so thankful to Arby and his crew, and over the many years having that support from CHLY radio. Sound Constitution has really provided students with the opportunity to increase their understanding and decision making around community development, in particular around promoting health of the community. And how they do that is through the use of their radio show. They look at the needs of the community, any trending health concerns or issues, and they tailor their show to provide factual, relevant health information, credible health information, to then help inform the listeners they can choose to use to inform their decision making around being healthy and making optimal health choices. I've been very fortunate to work with a great number of amazing nursing students who have really taken their opportunity to be creative with the producing and airing of this show. Over the years, they've really worked on various health topics from their lens, but from a health promotion lens too. And I don't know, this semester what my favorite show was. There's so many. I don't know, it's hard to choose one. One that does stand out for me was around substance use. And we were also very fortunate that Kevin Milbo from People's First Radio also found the show to be extremely informative, and did air that portion on his radio show as well, in both here in Nanaimo and in New Brunswick as well. So that was really exciting, and just really demonstrates the the level of expertise and knowledge that our nursing students put into this show, creating the show.
I really enjoyed all the flexibility and creativity that goes into the production of A Sound Constitution. I learned a lot about time management and working as part of a group, and this experience has also really helped me develop my research skills and ability to communicate health information in a way that's easy to understand and apply to daily life, which is something that I'll definitely pull forward into my nursing career. My favorite show was hands down the musculoskeletal and integumentary episode, because we had so much fun and laughed a lot creating that show. The only thing I wish we'd done differently is added in that song where the hip bone's connected to the leg bone.
By being a part of A Sound Constitution, I have been able to learn so much about the various topics that we've covered over the last 2 seasons. One of the skills that nurses need to know how to do is be able to educate the general population about various health topics, and that's exactly what we've been doing here on this show as well. Each week we create a script that is very well researched, and we use a variety of different sources to access a lot of information and basically narrow it down and summarize to a way that is understandable to the general public and is memorable, and as well as we encourage listeners to seek health promotion, whether it's through our show or any other resources that we provide. My favorite 2 shows that we have created are probably the substance use and the mental health episodes that we created last season. This is because mental health and substance use is my passion, and this is where I want to work in potentially in the future. And I believe that there is just so much stigma, and there's not enough discussion about mental health and substance use and addiction, and that we need to start the conversation. We need to start talking about it in schools, and we need to start promoting it on things like the radio, like we have been doing as well. I recommend anybody to go listen to those shows, because it really does talk about stigma and demystifying health myths and just giving the public the right information to make right health choices.
Working on a sound constitution has been a really fun experience for me. It's been a great project from which I have learned a lot, and there's a lot for me to pull forward. One of the big things I learned was how to work well with a group, because this project, it requires a lot of work and a lot of effort, and making that work as a group is a skill that I'm going to take forward with me. My favorite show was probably the mental health show, as that's what I was most passionate about. I think that was a really well done show. But I also really enjoyed our integumentary and musculoskeletal show, because that show was a lot of fun to record. Thanks for listening to us, guys.
What I learned working on a sound constitution was obviously how to record and edit shows. Working with this program and really synthesizing and being able to create a whole teachable show was really a great experience. I've really enjoyed my time on here. It's been really awesome to be able to teach what we're learning in the nursing program to a wider audience and let them benefit from this information as well. My favorite show was probably, I really enjoyed doing the cannabis show, because there was a lot of myths out there, and it was really great to be able to sit down and talk about what the truth is and what the facts are, and then obviously it was relevant because cannabis was recently legalized. But I've really enjoyed this whole Listen to Your Body series as well. I think that's been really great to teach people how to take care of their different systems. Yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. We've really enjoyed spending this time with you throughout these seasons.
Thank you for listening to this episode of A Sound Constitution and all our previous episodes on 101.7 CHLY Radio. You can also find our previous episodes on YouTube if you missed any of them. A Sound Constitution will be back with an entirely new group of hosts.
Thanks for listening to Sound Constitution on 101.7 CHLY.
Look for us on Facebook and Instagram.
Or check us out on YouTube for previous shows.
Tune in next Thursday from 10 to 11 for more from A Sound Constitution.
Bye for now.